And good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sports Talk on the Max. I'm Tony Ross. Great to be with you alongside my cohort, 19-year rider of the Gold and Black. Our very own Doug Griffith is with us in the house. And, well, Doug, today we got a special day today, don't we?
Yeah, a very special day. A very special guest will be joining us shortly. The head coach of the Purdue Boilermakers, Matt Painter, will be calling in, and we will discuss that magical ride that happened a couple months ago, the NCAA tournament, and guiding Purdue to its first Final Four since 1980 and first appearance in the national championship game since 1969. And as well as not only looking back, but looking forward, what life without Zach Edey is going to look like for the Boilermakers. And by no means is the cupboard bare. A lot comes back, of course, led by All-American point guard Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer in that backcourt, and Trey Kaufman-Renn, among others. And I'm sure we'll talk about Zach Edey's big week that he had. What an unbelievable story we've witnessed the past 4+ years with the Toronto native.
Well, I tell you, it's just going to be fun. And this is one of those rare opportunities that we're able to get a chance to talk with Matt. We've reminisced before with him, and so the fact that he's given us an opportunity to chit-chat about Boilermaker basketball, I got a little bit of goosebumps going on.
Yeah,
right
remember,
now,
Tony, I think it was last year we ran into him over at Knox. He was his son was helping the Tippy Valley boys basketball team, and you and I had a chance to shoot the breeze with him for a little bit and take a picture or two. And as always, very cordial. And I think Matt would talk basketball morning, noon, and night if his wife and family would let him get away with it. I remember, because I'm old enough, I actually covered Matt when Purdue recruited him, and then all 4 years when he was at Purdue, when I was at the time at the Purdue Exponent at the student newspaper, and then, of course, transitioned to Gold and Black for the last couple years of his career. And, I mean, Gene Katie often talked about what a basketball junkie he was, and you got a good inkling then that coaching was in his blood, and was going to be a head basketball coach. I don't think any of us envisioned it would be at his alma mater, especially so soon. You got to remember, Matt turns 54 years old next month, so he's relatively young, and it's hard for me especially, but for all of our Purdue fans and probably college basketball fans to believe Matt's been head coach at Purdue for 19 seasons. He's entering his 20th year. So it's, like they say, time flies, and it certainly has with Matt. Of course, he transitioned. He was the head coach at Southern Illinois, and then Purdue put in a succession plan for Gene Katie, and Matt did that for a year, 2004 to 2005, and then actually took over the Boilermaker program in 2005. 06, and there were some awfully lean years. I mean, there were lots of, there were some losing seasons, and he'll be the first to point out it was, and we thought this at the time, that the biggest moment in his young career at Purdue was when he signed that Robbie Hummel, E'Twaun Moore, Jawan Johnson. Of course, Scott Martin was also part of that 4-person class, and Scott eventually transferred to Notre Dame. But I think that's why a lot of our listeners and anybody that watched the Sweet 16 Elite 8 game with Tennessee, and you saw Matt go over to Robbie Hummel, who was doing radio, and that emotional exchange from them, because Matt will be the first to tell you he owes a lot to Robbie. Robbie Hummel and company took a chance on Matt Painter, and he knows, he openly said it. He said it on the air that day, and has said it through the years. He didn't think he'd last 4, 5, or 6 years at Purdue had it not been for that special class.
Well, you can catch this interview coming up here with Coach Painter also on our Max 98.3 stream, ! That's right, Max 98.3 stream, exclamation point, on our YouTube channel. That's our live Max 98.3 YouTube channel. You can go there now and catch the interview live coming up here in about another 10 minutes or so. All right, let's jump into some other kind of sports here leading up to Matt Painter's interview. And where do you want to go with this?
Well, I think we should recap the NBA draft. Locally, the Indiana Pacers didn't have a pick until the second round because of past trades and be that as it may, all that kind of stuff. But I thought they had a pretty good draft. I mean, they got 3 picks in the second round alone. And, of course, they were relatively young this year and had a deep run, played in the Eastern Conference Finals against Boston. So it will be interesting, to say the least. And I just saw where, speaking of Purdue, Lance Jones, the guard at Purdue, got invited to play for the Pacers Summer League team. So that's a pretty neat story. I mean, Lance, of course, transferred to Purdue for his final year and was a huge part of that Final Four run. But I think all the people in this area, especially Purdue fans, Zach Edey, at least around this neck of the woods, stole the show. I mean, when Memphis selected, was their selection, and you heard Zach Edey at number 9, I think, if you didn't get goosebumps or, throw your fist in the air, there's something wrong with you, because if it's not the greatest basketball story, it's one of them ever. I mean, there's a kid who was ranked 436th in the country in high school, comes to Purdue, 2-time National College Player of the Year, and then is a lottery pick in the NBA draft. I mean, just phenomenal, his development. And it does. He's a great story because it shows that you can be that kind of Cinderella story. Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people that don't like Zach. Maybe there's envious of him, but it's remarkable. And again, we've said it a lot on our show, Tony. I don't think his hockey background gets enough credit for helping him develop into the kind of player he became and the player he is. I mean, he played hockey, of course, growing up in Toronto, and you can't say enough about what that does cardio. And to be a man that size, and you and I had great opportunities to see him up close and personal. And as big as he appeared on TV, he was even more of a giant in person. And physics tell you a person that size shouldn't be able to move like he can on a basketball court. But he has a lot of God-given ability. Like I said, he worked a lot of his game. And I know Matt Painter and Boilermaker Nation. I should mention big man coach, assistant coach Brandon Brantley, who I also covered at Purdue, who of course was a teammate of Matt Painter's. He was huge in Zach Edey's development, and it's just, again, it's a fantastic story, and I really believe Memphis is not only getting a terrific person, but they're getting a player that will work his tail off. And I think he's going to silence a lot of critics. I think he's going to have a good NBA career.
He had a lot. He had a lot of critics. And just when his name got mentioned, you could hear, what? Who?
Yeah.
Really, right now, we need Zach Edey? The answer is yes.
And Memphis needed a center.
They need the big guy.
And when the big guy, Klingon from Connecticut, came off the board, The Athletic had done a report earlier in the day that said they were going to draft a big man. And if Klingon was off the board, Zach Edey was going to be their choice. And, of course, that's exactly what happened. And then now you start thinking of him with John Morant and setting screens for John Morant. Because I'm telling you what, Zach Edey, when he sets a screen, you do not get around him. And you know how that is the NBA game, the pick and roll.
I think he's going to need to get a little stronger, but a lot of people really underestimated his athleticism.
Oh yeah,
and I think a lot of teams will, quite frankly, out of the gate. And if Zach during the offseason has been practicing his outside shooting, and of course that's nothing but a big bonus if you can get someone like him to, and because he's athletic enough,
right?
that all he needs to be doing is working on his shot. So I think it's going to be one of those test first years.
It'll be very interesting to watch.
Where's he going to be fitting at?
Yep.
How much playing time is he going to be needing to get? Or do we use him as a trial by fire? Are you going to just throw him into the Wolves and let him find out where he's at? And either one, I think the kid's going to be okay. I think he's going to be able to hold his own. And it'll be, like I said, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how that's going to turn out for him.
And I think he's in a great place because you wanted him to land at a place that needed a big. And I think, his age, 22, the NBA's in love with younger players. They put a lot of stock in 18, 19-year-olds and being able to develop them. And I think Edey, again, he has only been playing organized basketball for six years-ish. And to think of where he's come and where he is now, he is so productive around the rim. And don't forget, he scored 37 points in the national title game against Klingen. He dominated him. Yeah. And I don't know what a guy has to do, knock on wood, he hasn't been injured. Didn't miss a game. I don't think he missed a game this year, maybe one, but he's durable, like you said. And he played. Think of that run Purdue went on. I don't know if he came off the court in the Tennessee game, and he was phenomenal in that game. NC State had no answer for him whatsoever, and then everyone said, okay, he's going to face Klingen 7-1. Here's his big test. He abused him. And earlier in the year, he abused Ballo, the 7-footer for Arizona. Again, each time there was a question about, okay, we'll see how Zach Edey performs in this game. He answered it and did so emphatically.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I think it's going to be interesting in how he adapts to the league. They're going to go after him. They're going to test to see just how strong he is. And, I think he won't mind that challenge. But I also feel that he needs to get physically a little bit more stronger because he's going to be facing a very strong opponent every time he hits the court. And then there's that part of me where, a lot of people don't give him credit for being an intelligent player. And he's such a smart kid. Maybe he doesn't start. Maybe he pays attention to the little things that's going to make him better or improve his time on the court, no matter how many minutes he gets. And the more that happens and the more success that he gets because he's smart, he's going to end up getting more PT. And I think it's going to be, that may be a route that he may have to consider. It's not a bad route. It's just not a bad route. And so I think Memphis really scored with this with Zach, not just because of his size, but everything else we've been talking about, the physicalness, the ability, his stamina, and he's just a smart basketball player.
You can't coach size. And yeah, the NBA is all about size and world-class athleticism and talent, no doubt about it, and quickness, speed, but I'm telling you what, he measured 7'5" at the combine with a wingspan of 7'11". They don't even have size like that. And yeah, you have 7-footers in that league. You don't have the girth. Zach Edey's 300 pounds and carries it very well. There's a learning curve for Zach, but I think there's going to be some learning curve because I'm telling you what, when there's a rebound to be had, it's his. And he showed us time and again, they'll never forget in Purdue history, the block he had on Dalton Connect in the waning moments of that Elite Eight game. Because remember, the knock is, can't play defense, can't move his feet. He showed there he can move his feet and he can play defense. And he didn't get in foul trouble either. And the other big thing is, remember when Shaq, I'm not saying Zach Edey's going to be Shaq by any stretch of the imagination, Shaquille O'Neal, but they would hack a Shaq and take him to the foul line. Zach Edey's a good foul shooter.
Yeah, he is.
And if he gets to the foul line, he'll score some points in that league.
Yeah. So, like I say, I'm happy for Zach. He's a great kid, and I think he's got a great future, to say the least. So, it is 12:16. We're anticipating an opportunity to talk with Coach Painter. Again, with the realization is that, he's a busy guy, and there may be that chance that he could call later on or may not be able to call at all. But we'll find out here in a little bit. But we are anticipating him to join us on the show in a few moments. So stay tuned. We'll take a break and come back with more Sports Talk on the Max after this. All right, welcome back to Sports Talk on the Max. It is 18 minutes after the hour. And again, we're hoping to get a chance to talk with Purdue basketball coach Matt Painter on the show. Again, you just never know what happens at the last minute. And quite frankly, we're not even probably in a top 10 priority for him.
There's a lot of moving parts
right now.
out there.
There's tons of moving parts with this. All we know is that we were told he was going to give us a ring, and so we'll just eagerly anticipate it. In the meantime, we're going to move on here and talk a little baseball. I don't know, dude. I'm just sounding like a broken record.
Do we have to talk baseball?
Well, we have to because it's like
I'm
the
just
sport
kidding
now, and I just feel like I'm talking like a broken record with this Cubs team. They 1 minute you think they've figured things out, and then the next another blown lead in the 8th inning or 9th inning, and it's like, when are these guys going to get it? When are the pitchers going to understand that they've got a huge role to play on this team? Not the starters. It's not the starters.
No.
Yes, we're banged up, but you're in the big leagues now. There's an expectation that you have to live up to if you're going to be a major league pitcher. And again, it's just one blunder after another. And, you kind of wonder now all of a sudden, and thankfully Ian Happ stepped up and broke a 4-game losing streak. But at some point in time, we've got to get some consistency going.
Yeah, and it's getting late. I mean, here we are on, they open up a series with Milwaukee, which it seems like the division now is out of the question. They're not going to, they're 10 games back, barring something unforeseen. I think 10.5 games back. They're in last place in their division, 6 games under 500. And so now your sights are completely on the wild card. You're 4 games back of that, but you have to leapfrog a ton of teams. So, I don't know. And they don't seem to be, maybe they can't get the deal that they want. And that's why you haven't seen a deal happen. But you just wonder after the last long stretch, it seems like they become sellers now instead of buyers. And it makes you wonder because, I don't know, I just haven't seen a pulse from this team as far as going to make much noise and even, make the playoffs. So,
and it's too bad because the Central Division standings for playoffs are just wide open still. Milwaukee's now lead been broke down to 6.5 as the Cardinals are finally finding ways to win. Cubs are officially in last place right now.
Yeah, that's
someone in that locker room. Swanson, Bellinger.
Think after April they were a half game out of first or something like that.
those two guys that I just mentioned have to be the leaders of this squad. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Morel's not a leader. Ian Happ should be one. And sometimes I wonder if Ian Happ really wants to play with the Cubs anymore. Just with his mental approach, especially during an at-bat. You got stars like Armstrong. He doesn't know any better with what he's doing other than the fact trying to utilize the God-given speed that's been given to him. The problem is he's not getting on base as often as we need, and when he is on, he's being left on.
Yeah.
Then you look out to Suzuki. I've said this before. He was trade bait last year for me. We should have got something for him then. Nothing's changed. His average may have risen a little bit, but I see nothing in him and wanting to improve.
Yeah, they were hoping for such good things with Suzuki, and it just, he had a great finish to last year and then started this year with a bang, and he, got injured, and just, again, it's like Tony said, it's been up and down. I mean, his power numbers aren't close to what they had envisioned. He has 9 home runs now, I think. And, boy, we saw in that San Francisco series, he, again, they're major league ball players. I mean, they should make some eye-opening catches, and he went back on a ball he should have caught. I mean, it was close to the wall, but
I've never seen him do that as much as he's done this year.
He dropped that ball, and 2 guys advanced, or 2 guys reached, and it ended up being runs for the Giants. And he's an average. I don't know. Maybe we were sold a bill of goods that he was better coming out of Japan than, at least defensively, but it hasn't turned out. I mean, he's an average outfielder. And, I think it begs the question, are the Cubs just filled with a bunch of average ball players? I don't even know if they're average, to be honest. I mean,
they're not playing average.
You look at their averages, and they certainly aren't average. And, I mean, you're dropping $25 million for Sampson, a guy that's batting .217, and you have an experiment at third base. I know he's cut down his strikeouts, Morel, but he's sort of all or nothing in the power department. And
this is right. Well, it's funny you mention that, because this is where they're at. They're in an all or nothing scenario, and right now, there's no motivation. There's no motivation. Greg Counsell's a really good coach. He really is. And he's never been a rah-rah siskumbah kind of guy, but you could tell that he was intense with his plate appearances and how he played infield. And if he was in a slump, he was doing something defensively to make up for it. And that's the mentality you kind of want, especially if you're going through a struggle. All right, I'm going to be better on my defensive side of things. No, there's none of that right now with this team. And the fact that our starters have still pitched as well as they have just absolutely surprises me.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, as for as many blown saves we've had this year.
17, I believe, is the count now. Maybe it's higher.
19, I thought. Either way.
I've lost track.
Far too many. Far, far, far too many. And I sit back and I watch, hey, I drink the Kool-Aid at times just because I'm a diehard Cub fan. Hey, this is going to be the year. I'm like every Cub fan. Hey, every year is going to be the year. And I really thought with the makeup that we had, we were going to be better than where we're at. I didn't anticipate Dansby having such a horrible hitting year. I didn't expect him to be okay with it either, because that's how he's swinging.
Right. And they're not a team built to have the so-called stars have an okay or below average type season. They need their stars to be stars. And you knew going in the catcher position was, you sort of hold your breath. You knew the first base position from a production standpoint was, okay, we're going to invest in this rookie that we got from the Dodgers, Bush. And then you have the laboratory experiment at third base. I mean, there are a lot of question marks. So you needed Bellinger, you needed Swanson, you needed Happ, you needed Horner to come through, and they just haven't. And the other, I get upset with, and again, I guess maybe it's professional baseball, but where are the competitors on this team? And I know, I get it's just sports. You play armchair quarterback a lot, but I think, and we heard the stories about Wilson Contreras, and had some episodes in the dugout or the clubhouse. But, occasionally I'd like that fire. Where's the fire? It's just like accepting losses. And if Schwarber's on this team, if Rizzo's on this team, you think they're just accepting? I mean, I remember Rizzo. Remember when the Cubs weren't very good? He was out at first base in Cincinnati, and one of the Reds said something to him. He turned, and he was going to go take on the whole Reds dugout. I don't think we have those kind of players, Tony. I really don't.
Well, and if we do, it's out of pure frustration that where we're looking to try to fight a fire, and we just don't. We right now are just not competitive. We don't have that fire. If we had that fire, we're not talking about this. And that's my problem. You sign Bellinger, and I'll say it again, I don't want to be right on some of this stuff. But this, I said even when Bellinger was getting thought of becoming a Chicago Cub, my question was, can you live with his inconsistency? He's going to have great months, and then he is going to flop like a fish. Just ask the Dodgers.
Yep.
Yeah, you need a guy like that because he can't come up with that big hit when he wants to.
And he has 9 homers.
Homers.
Happ has more than he has. He's batting .271, but you don't need 9. You can't have 9 homers from Bellinger.
No.
I mean, he was your big signing in the offseason as far as position players go. And
I don't know if the fact that he held as long as he did, he may have felt something personal in it. I don't know. But if he did, that's very unprofessional. That's very unprofessional. You sit there, you're even practicing during negotiations, at least you're supposed to be, and you should be out of the gate ready to roll. And I think he did for the first week or so, but then all of a sudden, he got injured. He got
hurt, had that rib fracture.
Then there has just, listen, if you're injured, stay off the list stay out of all about it until you're 100%. Yeah, I get all that. Well, I want to get back in as quick as possible to help the team because we're struggling. Listen, we're struggling for various reasons, not just the fact that you're not in it.
I wanted to ask you, have we reached the point of realistically, do you really think you can make something out of this?
2 things. We could, if we went and acquired the right person for this team. So, Tony, what is that right person? We need a closer or a middle reliever. I dare say the way Counsell handles his pitching staff, a middle reliever is probably most needed. We don't have a very good closer, but we have a closer that has shown he can close. He just doesn't do it. But if we have that middle reliever that can shut down your opponent for 2 to 3 innings up by 2 or 3 runs.
Yeah, when you have a 4-1 lead,
you know, when you got a 4-1 lead,
7th or 8th inning.
yeah, I mean, that changes the mindset quite a bit, quite frankly. So if we're not going to find that person, then yeah, you're going to need to sell off some people. Suzuki would be the very first one I would kick out the door.
See, and I think not only do you have to address the bullpen, but you got to go get a bat too. I mean, so this isn't. And what are the likelihoods of doing that? I don't know. I mean, to me, and of course, this is just an opinion. I mean, we're on the outside looking in, but I just don't get the feeling they're willing to part with some of their prospects like other teams are wanting, apparently, right? And there's no way they're going to get a legit bat and a legit reliever.
But everybody that's had to come up right now are not ready.
Right.
They're just not ready.
And I mean, is Pete Crow Armstrong ready?
I think he can be. The problem now,
I like him, don't get me wrong. But
right now, though, what he didn't have when he first came up, he has now. He's got a little cockiness to him. And not that I don't mind that, but along with that cockiness comes consistency. And he's just not getting on base enough. Not for my liking, at least.
Yeah, it's a shame, too, because when he gets on, I mean, I don't think he's been caught stealing
yet. A couple
yet.
games ago, I don't know if maybe it was Bellinger or maybe it was Ian Happ, I think, yanked one down the right field line in San Francisco. Armstrong, in 6 seconds, no, 5 seconds, just at 5 seconds, went from first to home. 5 seconds.
Yeah, he can fly.
That's what, maybe 3 blinks?
I can only dream of that.
You know, I mean, good Lord, I'm pulling a hammy off my start.
Yeah.
That's the potential you get, but this kid has got to get on more. And I'm not sure continually putting Ian Happ in a leadoff spot is what this team needs.
And that goes back, we've discussed this before. When's the last time this team's had a leadoff hitter?
Yeah. It's been a while.
Dexter Fowler?
Probably.
In 2016?
Probably. So, like I said, yeah, there's a lot of things this team needs and needs to be put together. But here's the deal: Console has only got so much to work with. You don't want to put you want a balanced lineup. First of all, the problem is you don't have the personnel to be balanced because your bottom 3, which includes Amaya, who can't hit the broadside of a barn door, is struggling to hit, and then the rest of the bottom third are struggling too. Does Nico Horner need to be a leadoff hitter? Well, I thought the experiment went fairly decent when they tried it. And quite frankly, we can complain that Nico's not a leadoff hitter, but quite frankly, Nico lost the being at the top of the order because he just quit hitting.
And maybe he develops into it. If he hits, he's going to have to hit a lot better. But Pete Crow Armstrong is your perfect leadoff hitter.
I think he is
because of the way he can steal bases and
he can beat out a bunt.
Right. You know, he has a lot of Bobby Denier in him. You know,
but does PCA want to get off this ego train? You watch him and his approach at the plate. There's a ego about him, and son, you're too young to develop one right now. That's why you've been down to the minors again already. Get up there, get focused. Don't have smirks. If a pitch is called a ball or a strike on you, just get up there and hit the ball, son. Get on base. That's your job. You want to be a 7-figure player? Do your job. Get on base. Quit swinging at 3-0 pitches. You are not ready to be a 3-0 hitter. Pay attention. Do your homework. I tell you, here's another thing. The way we're swinging the bat, it's like we don't pay attention to the scouting report.
Oh, I don't. I've said for a long
I
time,
just-
I don't think this is a very good baseball IQ team. I really don't.
It doesn't feel like it, that's for sure.
And, I was looking at their stats just now. They have one player over 300, and that's David Bodie, who's only played in 16 games. Everyone else is 271 or below. I mean, that's why
not gonna
they're in
win
last
games.
place.
Yeah, you're just not gonna win
It's not
games.
that hard to figure out. And now people are starting to figure out Otani, or not Otani, not
Imanaga?
Imanaga, sorry. Yeah, I mean, and what teams are seeing him for a second and third time, and they're catching on to how he pitches, and he's tried to change some things up, but I think you're going to see, and maybe we started to see it. I mean, we haven't, because the starters, I don't think, have really had any kind of a bad stretch whatsoever this season, but you just wonder, how long they can go, knowing that if they give up more than 2 runs, they're doomed.
Right. Well, it's not there. It's just not there. And you either make the jump at getting a pitcher that can handle middle relief. Kyle Hendricks has been pitching a little bit better, but listen, he always falls back to uncorrect what he corrects. His stats show that over the years. Is he a great pitcher? He's a very, 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 very good pitcher. He's a smart pitcher. The problem is this year, he has just simply failed to execute his locations. That's why he's getting tagged. I mean, 3-0 fastballs down middle to a number 3, 4, or 5 hitter. They're going to go. They're going to hit. They're going to hit that and hit it right out of the damn park.
Well, and that's why you've seen him throw more and more curveballs, because his
he
location,
just started doing that.
Yeah, and that's why I think he's had some success. Now, again, we'll see what happens when teams and scouts start tipping off their hitters. They sit on the curve, but that's helped him at least in the last couple starts. So we'll see. His velocity's never been. It's been all about location for Kyle Hendricks, and when his location's off a little bit, he's in deep trouble.
Yeah, just deep trouble. All right, let's take a break. Come back. 12:38. Sports Talk on the Max continues in just a little bit. Don't go away. Come on. Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Max. Tony Ross, great to be with you, along with Doug Griffith. We are still waiting for Matt Painter, and there's probably a likelihood that we're not going to be able to get him today simply because something has come up, and we'll, if we don't get him today, we'll try to get him down the road because I know he said that he would love to do it, and so today just may have got away from him, and we'll hopefully...
And we
maybe
will get it done. Tony
we're
and
gonna
I
get it
will.
done one way or the other. Yeah,
because we want to bring that to our listeners. And like Tony said, usually, Matt's extremely reliable, but who knows?
And let's face it, man.
I don't know if he's traveling.
If
and,
doing this kind of thing for us, man, it's a gift.
Right.
So if something does come up, we totally understand.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, he's got a lot of other irons in the fire that he could be dealing with. It's just a little bit more priority than us. But we understand that. But like I said, if we get him, we'll go as long as we can. We'll even go overtime if we have to. But we're hoping we can still get something from him. But if not, that's fine. I do want to talk about the WNBA. Fever, they have now dropped 2 straight games. Last night, lost to the Seattle Storm 89-77. I got to admit, from a personal standpoint, I've kind of enjoyed it with these two teams that played one another. One, because not only do you got Caitlin Clark here of the Fever, but you've also got Skylar Diggins, who plays for Seattle. Now, in that game last night, she finished with 8 points. Her time's been a little limited of more recent last couple years, quite frankly. But Diggs has still got her moves, man.
She's played a long time, man.
She has.
What a career she's had.
Clark finished with 15 points. She was a -7, though, last night defensively. And that's got to get figured out by her.
Yeah, she had 6 turnovers, 7 assists.
That's got to get...
The turnover. But, I think we talked about it, Tony, early in her first 2-3 games. And you watch the video, and I'm not blaming her for every turnover, but she makes some passes. I just don't think her teammates are
Couldn't agree with you more.
used to them.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Now, again, some of them aren't easy catches, but there was a clip that I watched this week of a game or two, and she was in the backcourt, and it was a the transition was starting to happen, and she tried to make, a half-court pass to a running teammate that would have led to a layup, and the ball
right
was
through the hands.
catchable. And right to the hands. So who gets the turnover?
In that Sky loss in Chicago last Sunday afternoon, 5 times, 5 turnovers were because her teammates couldn't catch a pass.
And we've talked about that I don't think her, and it's not only a learning process for Caitlin Clark, it's a learning process for her teammates.
She can't slow down those passes, though.
Right. Let's be real. They haven't had a player like her that passes. It'd be like playing with Larry Bird and then all of a sudden you're not playing for Larry Bird or getting used to playing with Larry Bird. I mean, she sees the court and can pass the basketball like nobody's business. And again, no doubt she's going to have to cut down the turnovers where, she gets the ball stolen from her dribbling, and she has made some errant passes, but I don't think it's totally on her.
Mitchell, I don't know what her problem is. Kelsey's a good player, but she's having too many of these nights. A -23 last night against Seattle. She was a minus...
And she had 14 points, too, and she's still a -23.
Yeah, and then she was a minus... Checking it out here real quick. She was in the mid-teens in the minus category. And in her last couple of games. Listen, at some point in time, leaning on the past excuse of, well, we're just learning in the chemistry and every excuse you can think of for losing the game, that's got to stop. That's just got to stop.
Well, and you're not going to win many games when you have under 20 points in 2 quarters. You score 77 points in a game as a team. I mean...
And I am so glad, because I have not been impressed with Aaliyah Boston's play. But in the last 5 to 10 games, I'm going to give her some props because she deserves it.
I was
She's been
gonna say,
double-double
she's coming on.
and a majority.
Yep.
I think she needs to be a little bit more aggressive offensively, but she's at least contributing. And so I think that's been one player that's slowly figured out where she needs to be and how things go, what her role is basically with this Fever team.
And I'll admit, Tony, after the first, the start they got off to, I was like, this team isn't going to win hardly any games. And so up until, their current 2-game losing streak.
And they're 5 games under.
To win 7 games, they were 3 games under before the 2-game slide. So if you would have told me back after the first week of the year, I would have been like, boy, I don't know if they're going to reach double digits in wins this year. How about we haven't had a chance to talk? The Olympics, are about a month away, and she didn't make the Olympic roster. So
CC?
Yeah. So that.
Yeah.
And again, that team is loaded. It's going to go over there. I mean, have the United States women ever lost an Olympic since the WNBA players have been able? I don't think they have.
I don't know. I think you're right.
Now, I know, and then even the men's side, I mean, the team we've assembled on that, I mean, it's not the dream team that was so unbelievable, but it's not far from it. I mean, those teams will be fun to watch here in about a month in Paris. And speaking of which, I didn't have a chance to say Zach Edey's crazy schedule. He's going to play in the Summer League. I didn't think he was going to play in that for Memphis, and that is July 12th to the 22nd. Of course, they haven't come out with that schedule yet, but they will, and those games are televised. But then he'll get on a plane because he's going to play for Team Canada in the Olympics, and Canada opens play July 27th.
Yeah.
So you're going to have a lot of basketball to watch with some local interest, and then I really think both the men's and women's United States teams will be dynamite. And of course, Caitlin Clark's admission, or omission, I should say, from that team, had a lot of skeptics saying, what in the world are you doing? This is the person people want to watch. And, I sort of get both sides. She had hardly played any professionally. And you look at that roster, and it is stacked with women that have played a long, long time. So I don't know, I wouldn't begin to know who you cut off of that team. And it's not like, leaving Caitlin Clark off is going to cost the United States the gold, because it would be a massive upset if the United States women don't win the gold.
Well, here's another thing, and it's not going to be popular with what I say next. It's just not. But Reese of the Chicago Sky, I don't know where people are getting that she's a role model. When you hear her talk,
Amen.
When you hear her talk in press conferences, I'm a dog. I'm just going to get everything. No one can stop me. You're not Muhammad Ali, first of all.
She doesn't have to be that way.
She doesn't
either.
have to be that way.
Let your play do the talking.
And the fact that she lets Caitlin Clark be she didn't Sunday, but she did make the comment after they beat the Fever.
Yeah.
I'm a dog. I'm getting everything. No one can stop me. I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm that. And the key word in all that is I.
You talk about a Caitlin Clark complex. She has it.
Oh, my gosh.
Just, again, not only let your play do the talk, you won a national championship at LSU.
And I'll tell you another thing.
You're recording double-double after double-double every night in the WNBA.
I get to watch all WNBA games.
Yeah, Tony's got
I get to watch them all. And I'm telling you, I would not want to be a WNBA official. The crying, I mean, you watch a replay of you see this one player literally smack the offensive person driving to the basket, and their hands are up. What? I wasn't even near. The replay shows that you hammered her.
It's like every
like watching
call,
soccer,
right?
the
Men's
soccer players.
Yes.
Throw a fit. Or take
And unfortunately,
dives.
professional basketball, NBA is like
It's
that
like that,
too.
too.
I mean,
I mean-
we talked about, and I admit I didn't watch in the NBA this year until, the Pacers, I think, were in the second round. And then I started watching it, and I'm like, they have replay for, that can overturn foul calls and this and that. And then every time everyone thinks they're fouled or not fouled, Oh, they had a clip. Go back. I urge our listeners to go on social media. You might have seen it, Tony. Angel Reese, I think it was a week ago. They have a clip of her getting the ball about 3/4 of the way down the
God.
floor. Did you see that?
10 steps, it looked like.
Well, that is a double dribble, triple dribbling. I mean, there were like 3 or 4 violations missed, and the referee is running right beside her. And she goes and lays the ball in, and it's just like, what? What are you watching? And, I don't know. But she's a piece of work. And, there was a part of me that thought, how much of this is a show and to get attention? But now I just believe that's who she is, And again, your play is, your stats should do all the talking. And
But Caitlin Clark also kind of fits that mold too.
oh yeah, she's
not afraid to
too,
whine.
Yeah, she cries too much for my liking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And her dad even wanted during one of the Iowa games. Shut your mouth.
yeah.
Or you're going to get called again.
Refresh my memory. Did Michael Jordan whine all the time? I mean, I know he got a lot of calls.
I can't remember him whining. But
Did Larry Bird? Did Magic Johnson?
Well, Bird.
I mean-
it's funny you say that. All three that you just mentioned were great trash talkers.
Right,
they
but
also
I mean,
backed their
as
game.
far as the officials,
And
because I can't remember.
When you got fouled, two things happened. Either you took it personally and you went after a Bill Lambier
Right,
or a
exactly
Dennis
right.
Rodman.
I just don't remember there being so much, every single call.
It's bad.
Right?
It's
Am I right?
bad.
I just don't remember
what's
that being such a part of the
what's so
game.
disappointing is that there's so many great women basketball
yes.
players. Every one of them. Everyone
Yep.
who make the league.
And
They're
they
great.
can shoot and they can
Yes,
run.
they can do. Why the drama?
Right. Same thing about the men's game. Like I said, I hadn't watched the NBA all year, and I'm watching. I mean, their shot making ability is just off the charts. And, to watch them, it's just, they're like automatic on jumpers. And like you said, it just takes a lot away from the game when you're. And then, it has trickle down effect. I remember when, ESPN came along and Sports Center and Top 10, and they said, all the top 10 plays were usually dunks, and that, trickled down to, the college ranks. And, then you heard the talk of the mid-range jumper going away. And, I think you're seeing, it certainly doesn't help matters in the day and age. We're already fighting with, coaches' behavior, player behavior, fan behavior, and then to see the pros whining and
same
crying
thing.
at the official. I mean, what are we fighting, Tony, in so many of the games we do at the high school level? A shortage of officials. Why? Because they're, when they work year round at these AAU tournaments, they're getting barked at. Well, where do those players see, at the highest level? They see LeBron crying. They see Caitlin Clark crying. You name it. And I think the professional basketball players could do themselves a great service and do the game a great service by
Just playing.
play.
Just play.
Have fun and play.
Okay, the foul may have been a ghost foul.
Yeah.
But you know what? You can challenge that now.
Right. Yes.
So sitting there pouting and shaking your head saying that's BS because you can read their lips. It's not like they're hiding the word. They're saying the word.
And you make a great living playing the game that you love. Now, don't get me wrong. You've worked very hard to get where you are, but there are a lot of people that would love to be in their shoes. And like I said, just don't cry and have fun while you play and be good role models.
And again, there's points in the ball game. Caitlin Clark could use that bit
Oh,
of
yes.
advice too. You know,
And hopefully, as she gets older and matures, that becomes a thing of the past with her game, because so many girls and boys look up to her and use her as a role model. Mm-hmm. And you know, if I were her father or one of her good friends, but again, you can't have dad being a jerk either in the stand. That doesn't help matter. So to me, when you said that, I'm like, well, you know where she got it, Tony.
Yeah.
She's probably seen that from the time she was playing
put a ball in her hand.
little basketball.
Yeah, I just it's the most disappointing part of watching WNBA basketball right now.
Yeah.
Is the whining and complaining and.
It's funny because you mentioned men's soccer, and Kim and I, my wife, we watched the CONCACAF, I think, last night. United States lost to Panama 2-1. Now there wasn't as, but it's still the flopping and the whine. My guy, you would think they broke their leg
got
every
killed.
time.
Got shot.
Yeah,
I don't know.
it's just
Professional sports has gotten to the point because we've let it get to the point. I mean, you see the same thing in high school. You got kids who have learned that if you go down hard and flop and learn how to flop, you're going to get a call.
Right.
You are going to get a call. Now, that's a combination of officiating and a combination of learning. I'm not saying the word cheat, but not being completely honest about playing the game. It's like we're trying to take a shortcut to our end result. And I just think it's not right. It's not. We're not teaching what we need to be teaching about the game of soccer, the game of basketball. You know, hockey's hard to prove. Well, I mean, they got players who will flop. But boy, it's far less than any other sport, I can tell you that.
You don't get away with it for very long.
No.
They're going back the other way.
Well, there's that.
on an odd man rush.
There's that, or that person who took the flop and drew a penalty, he's going to get knocked to the boards.
Right. Exactly right.
You know, he's just unlucky it wasn't old-time hockey.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be through the boards. And that's what I loved about, you know, when I hate to use the game, but you know, the you never had guys flopping on the ice. When someone went to the ice, they got hit.
Well,
they
now it's a penalty, an embellishment penalty they can call.
Right, they could.
Yeah.
They could, but it's such a fast-paced game, it's tough to keep up.
Right.
You know?
I know you and I watched that Edmonton, Florida series, and boy, that was
a good series.
A heck of a series.
Yeah, that was fun to watch. I didn't think I would enjoy it, but I did immensely.
I got to put a shameless plug. The owner of Florida is a United States military West Point graduate.
Yeah.
So my daughter is overjoyed because the Stanley Cup will be returning to West Point at some time this
That'd be
summer.
cool to
So
see.
she'll take pictures of that. It is it's a great try. I saw, speaking of the Cup, Tony, we were talking about the next day, Florida, which of course is located in Miami, based out of Miami. Well, those guys, and a hockey player, God love them. They're just a rare breed, always have been, always will be, but they paraded that thing. Not a parade, but they went on their own. It'd be just like walking down the street, Michigan,
Miami Beach.
in Plymouth. They're walking that thing down the street. They took it to the beach.
Yep.
They took the cup to the beach, and it's just
Hell, they filled it up with beer
It'd
and
be like
poured it on
me and
people.
you and our best friends out there on the beach with the cup. And then I saw a guy last night. Is on social media too. He's got the cup with him at an Italian restaurant. He's eating spaghetti out of the bowl at the top of the cup. Just classic.
Yeah.
I love it. I mean, what a trophy! What a sport! It's fun, and that kind of stuff puts a smile on our faces.
It does. All right, we got to get out of here. Again, we apologize. We were hoping to talk to Matt Painter today, but obviously something came up, and that's just the way it is. We're talking with a guy who has a limited amount of time. I don't know how he even finds time to spend it with his family. But we're going to try again, and hopefully we'll get him in soon. to get him on a show to talk about the Boilermaker basketball program and the direction it's going, and we'll kind of go from there and make it happen. So until that time, we'll see you next Friday for more sports talk on the Max on Max 98.3.